Welcome to Hack the Entrepreneur, the show which reveals the fears, habits, and inner battles behind big-name entrepreneurs and those on their way to joining them. Now here is your host, John Naster.
Hey, this is Hack the Entrepreneur. Thank you so much for joining me again today. I am your host, John Naster, but you can call me Johnny. My guest today is an author, runner, and an entrepreneur. Back in 1996, my guest co-founded Omega Insurance Services, an insurance fraud investigation company. They went from a company of 3 to a company of over 300 people, and then were later acquired for $20 million in 2003. Then, after enjoying a mini retirement of sorts, and maybe getting a bit bored, my guest launched a software company called Social Jukebox, a social media engagement system. He is also the author of Alphabet Success, Keeping It Simple, My Secrets to Success. Now, let's hack Tim Fargo. In the past 9 years of running online businesses, I have to figure that I've sent probably over 10 million email messages between my own companies, Hack the Entrepreneur, and some companies that I've consulted with. And the one thing I've realized in all of these emails is that marketing messages that aren't targeted or personalized are absolutely worthless. It's been proven that companies using marketing automation will see a 53% higher conversion than those using traditional email marketing. ActiveCampaign enables you to send perfectly timed messages in response to your customers' actions and behaviors. ActiveCampaign will allow you to treat your contacts as unique individuals, which they are, rather than just sending everyone the same message over and over. With marketing automation, your campaigns can listen, learn, adapt, and respond, all based on how your contacts behave and act and how their customer profile changes over time. Plus, it's a beautiful, easy-to-use platform. There's no need to hire consultants, and you can set it up yourself. See why thousands are upgrading to a more intelligent marketing solution. Sign up for a free 14-day trial right now. No credit card needed. Visit activecampaign.com/hack. There's no training fees, there's no contracts, and pricing is accessible to every size of business. Custom deal made specially for Hack the Entrepreneur listeners. Here's what you're going to get. Free migration. If you have email lists and any other email provider, they'll move them, your contacts, your lists, your templates for you, absolutely for free. Plus, whatever you choose, after your 14 days, you're going to pay for your first month, and then your second month of service is going to be absolutely free. Plus, this one's cool. You're going to get a free one-on-one strategy session with a platform consultant, and you can use this during your free trial to give you a jump start. Start marketing smarter today. Get and convert more leads with ActiveCampaign. To get started with your 14-day free trial, go to activecampaign.com/hack. That's activecampaign.com/hack. We are back with another episode of Hack the Entrepreneur. And today we have a very, very special guest. Tim, welcome to the show.
John, thanks for having me. Great to be here.
Absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your day over in Poland and speaking to me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, it'll be fun.
Excellent. So what do you say? Should we just jump into it?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Tim, as an entrepreneur, can you tell me what is the one thing that you do that you feel has been the biggest contributor to your successes so far?
Keep asking questions. I think you just can't underestimate. You never know it all, and I actually think it's also great to question assumptions, and we'll probably get into that later. But I think very often when people start something or build something, what they do is they go and they look at someone else who's done something similar, and they go, okay, well, I'll just model after them, and that's not entirely wrong. But I think sometimes you can ask yourself, is everything the prior participants have done necessary, or did they just build it that way because they didn't know any better?
Oh, like meaning that maybe they did the same thing and actually looked at somebody else doing it and copied them.
Well, I'm thinking about my own company, Social Jukebox. And I mean, a lot of people, when they start a tech company, I mean, they typically start hiring CTOs and they start building a customer support staff and all these things. And everything I do is completely outsourced, and a lot of it's done just by me. And that's not done just out of some sense of thrift. It's also done because I think that certain elements of that are just unnecessary. I think, the idea, you can build a team, right? And I suppose that, if you get to a certain juncture, then that maybe all makes sense. But there's some pretty strong counter arguments why. I mean, once you build a product, until you decide you want to come up with a new iteration of that product, you don't really need the tech team. And they're going to just be spinning their wheels. You know what I mean? That was kind of what I was getting at about questioning some kind of the fundamental assumptions of the model you're entering.
Wow, I like that. So to be clear, people heard it in the intro, but you are now the founder of Social Jukebox, which is, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's like a SaaS. It's software as a service for social media marketing.
Right. It's a automated content management system for social media.
But it's software that you sell monthly to people to use for their business. That being said, this is probably going to fascinate a lot of people listening, because I would think a lot of people make that assumption, like you said, which is you have a company like that. Once it's built, you still think that you need a CTO and a team around it. But you literally don't need a coder on staff? Like, do things not just break and things need to be fixed all the time?
Once things are running, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do have an engineer on retainer, okay? But there was a lot of software expense building it. But now I'm down to a trickle on maintaining it and adding suggestions and things like that. In the same time, okay, so I turned the wick down so that I'm extracting more profit from the business. Simultaneous to that, I'm looking at other firms to maybe build the next iteration. Not so much because I'm dissatisfied with the prior developers, but because I think there's nothing like letting someone look at someone else's work to see how they could improve it. It's very hard to do that with your own work.
Right. That's totally true. And also, I guess you would need to sort of, version 2 at some point has to come out anyways, just to keep existing customers and new customers happy. So you can kind of relaunch it, have the hoopla around it, and then get more interest, I would assume.
Well, I think there's that, and I want to add functionality as we go. I do think there's a temptation, also kind of an underlying assumption that goes into certain business, especially tech businesses, where it's like, let's keep adding stuff. And the dilemma is, I mean, actually, Social Jukebox was born from me being a little bit frustrated with a couple tools I used that I thought were overly complicated. And it's funny because as one of the things that drove me to make the decision to cut back the number of engineers that were working on the product was I found myself stumbling down that same path. That I was like, oh, we'll add this, we'll add that. And I was like, dude, you are so in the process of becoming that same thing that you disdained before.
It's a slippery place you can be. And that definitely happens. So since we're talking about assumptions of somebody owning a software product, were you in software and tech prior to Social Jukebox?
No, but we did have, I mean, Omega, my prior company that I sold in 2003, I mean, we were an investigative company, right? We were PIs for the insurance industry, private investigators. But we had a really strong tech bend because, I mean, for one, I know a little bit, I really do mean that. That's not me being modest, about technology. But I knew enough to know that given how much information we were moving around, that we could build a competitive advantage through technology.
Okay. So so you were private investigators for the insurance agency, for insurance agencies. You ran that company for, I believe, almost 10 years and then exited in 2003. Can you connect the dots sort of from there to one thing, just like, wow, that's a nice payday. Should I do something next, or what should I do? Sort of track us out through those dots if you could.
Okay, well, it was 7 years soup to nuts, right? So I started it, and then not on the nose, obviously, but roughly 7 years later, I sold it. And it was when I sold it, I thought, this is it. I'm done. Let me run a couple laps with the flag and then I'll go sit in the stands. And I perhaps should have been more insightful, but it was way too early in my life for me to be thinking I was going to be able to do just like little investment projects and be satisfied with that. Because ultimately, and I suppose everyone wants to experience this for themselves rather than take my word for it, but it's very difficult to sort of have a pile of money, unless it's a really gigantic pile of money. And I had a nice exit, but not kind of a Jeff Bezos kind of exit. So, you're really playing defense. So you're kind of you're running out the clock going, well, if my investments do this, then I should be able to live this way. And it's weird. It's like you're worrying about like hanging on to what you got as opposed to going out and doing something. And when you're in your 40s, I mean, that's pretty early to be like turning the wick down. So, but I did it. I did like semi-retire, so to speak. I mean, I did some property things for a while, and that was engaging enough, I suppose. But ultimately, what happened is I decided to re-engage in the form of coming out with a book. And that was in 2013. And I discovered what a lot of authors discover when they come out with a book, and that was that absolutely nobody cares that you've come out with a book. And I mean, I'm exaggerating a bit, but maybe not that much. And so then the next challenge was to go to social media and try to develop a following, right? So I quickly decided that Twitter was the best place for me because there's no barriers. Someone doesn't have to friend you, you can talk to anybody and that kind of thing. So I thought in terms of meeting new people who I didn't know before, this is a place to cover some turf. And the other thing I quickly discovered after showing up there was that scheduling posts took a lot of time. So, and I was spending an inordinate amount of time, because I was doing motivational and inspirational quotes, which I continue to do to this day on Twitter. But I was constantly having to manage the content that I was using because, quotes are pretty evergreen, at least the ones I post. So I was constantly just doing what amounts to kind of what I call monkey work. It doesn't really require any brain power, just modest level of organization and just keep repeating it. So I got really sick of doing that. And I contacted the guy that used to be head of IT for my old company. And I said, look, and I was doing this just for me. I just wanted out of it because I tried using a couple other products and I didn't like them. So I said, look, can you build me something simple to, manage my content, keep my posts going out at a certain rate. So I did that. And then what ended up happening is people were much more interested in how I was posting on social media all the time than they were in my book. So I pivoted, to use the common term, I suppose, these days. And I kind of dropped the book and started looking at the software as a potential business.
So you essentially just scratched your own itch. Several itches, perhaps, because you also seemed like you wanted to stop playing defensive, as you said. Because obviously building Omega Insurance Services was like heavily on the offensive. 50% year on growth. You were heavily on the offensive, pushing hard for growth. And then all of a sudden it's like you get a payout and now it's like, okay, just don't lose this. Keep this.
Right.
It's a hard thing for an entrepreneur, right? Because everything that got you to where you are is pushing and just risking it all over and over and over again almost to get to that big payout. And then you get there and then immediately you have to think differently. That's
extremely accurate. I wish, frankly, that I would have had that level of insight going into it. I just was thinking, like pina colada and a cozy chair. That was the insight I had as I was kind of, walking out the door.
Right. But so now the difference is so now you have a business, Social Jukebox, you've had the exit, and now you are, you're in Poland right now for half the year and you live in Florida for half the year. Meaning that you've created sort of like this business lifestyle where you now get to dictate sort of how your business will be run and how it will affect your life.
And that's totally true. And I have to say that the reason I was willing, if somebody had said, really like your book, we want to invest in you doing another investigative company. And I actually had people ask me many times to get back into that business. And I was like, nah, I'm done. And because with the business I have now, I was just in Latvia with my son. We ran the Riga half marathon together over the weekend. And while we were there together, I mean, we went out or goof around the city and having a nice time. And every now and then I'd get a support email or, some user would have a question or I'd have little business things pop up. But I mean, it just comes in on my phone and I take little segments of time throughout the day and deal with those things. But I can be anywhere. And my favorite story like that is I was actually in Stockholm having a cup of coffee, answering a support question of a travel blogger in Kyrgyzstan. And I was like, this is perfect. I absolutely love it. So, and my point is like the software business ended up being like the perfect thing because that was what the book was also meant to do, was be something that would be like an anchor for activity, but not root me down into one particular locale.
Fair enough. And now that can sort of drive where you are heading. So back at the beginning of this conversation, Tim, you said your one thing is to question assumptions and to keep asking questions. Now, every business expert out there talks about this 80-20 rule in business. You're supposed to find that 20% that gives you the 80% of the results. You're supposed to do what you're good at and delegate the rest. I know you don't want a big team around you right now, but can you tell me something, Tim, that you are absolutely not good at in your business?
I'm very, very thin-skinned if I get a hostile support email, like where I feel like somebody's being unduly hot, I don't respond. I don't take the bait, so to speak. But I'm not very good at being detached about it. Like, oh, they're just upset. I'm like, what do you how can you be that agitated about? Because usually it's something they don't, frankly, at this juncture. I mean, early on, we did have some bumps where, it was totally understood, because we had things that we made mistakes, there were bugs, and people were being patient and tolerant, and occasionally that ran out. I totally understood that. But every now and then I'll get somebody now that'll be a little hot. And I'm not great at being detached when things like that come in. So I have to kind of walk around. But that's the other benefit of not being face to face with people, because I can walk around and rant a little bit. And then when I calm down, I can respond.
So does this not affect your sort of business lifestyle, though? Like, you're in Latvia with your son, you get a support ticket that's just completely irrational. And everybody listening, everybody who's ever dealt with customers in any way, knows that there's a certain percentage of people that they just need to yell at you for nothing, and it's nothing to do with you, but that's how it is. But is it not worth it at some point to delegate that out and get somebody else to handle that so you don't have your day ruined?
I would say that the problem is that when you delegate it out, the risk is that you end up losing contact with when there's a real problem with your software. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
I know it may sound like overly cautious, but when you hand things off to people, I think there's a tendency, nobody wants to bring bad news to the boss, because they may think that some particular function, feature, or element of the code or the UI, whatever, was your idea. So they don't want to come back and go, you know what, users hate this. But users don't care about telling me. Those kind of arrows, I absolutely love to have shot at me, because when people go, you know what, I just don't understand this, then that's fine. And I think that's my opportunity to really jump in and take kind of what's a basic support function and let it be a product development function. And then second onto that is, very often I will actually, somebody will be on the process, let's say they'll say, well, you know what, I'd like to cancel because of X. And then I ask some questions about why, and they were unaware of a particular function or feature. So, and it's a pretty tall order to ask someone who's just like a customer service rep to kind of upsell someone out of canceling.
That's true. Okay, so it's the benefit ultimately for the business outweighs any sort of small negatives that it affects you personally.
At this juncture, there might come a day where I'll be like, wow, here's hoping that becomes a real issue. But for the moment, I actually really like it. It was one of the things when Omega got big and we had over 300 employees. So I was really kind of like the guy in the little command module, sort of just twisting a dial here and there. And I suppose for some people that might sound like the ideal life, but you feel very far away from the work. You know what I mean? It's like being a sailor, but you're so far in in the protective core of the ship that you have no idea. Like, the weather is not lashing away at you. And I think when you're a little bit closer to the customer, in this case, very close to the customer, I think you have a better sense of actually what's going on. And I missed that when my former business got big. I actually really like kind of being in the trenches a little bit.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay, let's move to projects as a loose term now. Projects meaning you have Social Jukebox running, you have successes in your past, you have a book in your past, you sort of went through like the struggles of exiting and then not sure what to do, and now you found something to do. But you're still an entrepreneur at heart. So you have ideas, I'm sure, that come to you. You're traveling, those kind of things just kind of spring ideas to us, always in new places, doing new things. I'm sure ideas probably even come to you with your book and your successes that have happened. So I want to know right now, with how from, I guess, 3 years ago, 2 years ago, when you started Social Jukebox, and that was kind of like your first foray back into business, have you pushed further like into the direction of, I want to start more things? Or has it made you actually pull back further to, actually, I just want to kind of live on the beach? Where you do actually live on the beach half the year.
Well, I would say that I do get ideas, but my take on those ideas, because I watched this happen at Omega, right? Because we have this very big private investigative firm. So questions come up about, can you do this? Can you do that? Can you kind of take that expertise and apply it to other things? And the answer is, yeah, we could have, but I think what allowed us to grow and continue to crank out a great work product was ignoring those ideas and trying to keep the ideas focused within a realm that circled around improving and adding on to what we were already doing. And I'm not saying it's easy, because sometimes we'll be like, oh, it'd be so awesome when I could do this. And like, I like this, like, absolutely disconnected, bizarre desire to like run like a deli, because I really love nice, like, cured meats and cheeses and stuff like that. I've been running around Europe too long or something. But so, I mean, and it's like some fantasy thing in my head. And then I remind myself, like, I have this awesome business. And if I do, like, just, refocus there, I think it's very, from my perspective anyhow, when I get an idea like that, I'm like, shiny new object, just keep it away from your face, stay focused on what you're doing. Because, I mean, I think the real gold is, there's so many more people that need what I do besides the existing client base I have. So, I mean, the real like boost for me individually is to just keep adding on and improving what I'm doing and reaching out to more clients, rather than diluting myself by like running down a million different kind of corridors, which I'm totally capable of doing, but I have to kind of rein myself in.
Yeah. Okay. So I appreciate the laser-like focus and wanting to, the deli. I mean, I've had these sort of feelings with like bars and coffee shops before too. And then it's like, you got to be here like every day, like running this, opening a door and stuff. And like, it's crazy. It's complete opposite of what you're doing now. So I see how you are diluting yourself, or I think you are, sorry. But this like still sort of, how am I trying to say this? It's like leading us to a place. I've lost my train of thought, Tim.
That's all right. But I think, look, I'm not saying that it's sometimes, like, I mean, hey, I had the book idea, and then, I mean, software is not necessarily very related to selling books, but it just kind of happened along the way. And that was a great new vine, so to speak, if I was kind of Tarzan of the entrepreneurial world, a new vine for me to grab on to get across the jungle. But I think this vine's got a lot further to run. So until I see another vine that looks more attractive, I'm going to keep on hanging on to this one.
There we go. Okay. So using the vine analogy, and obviously with your last business, you had an end place and you hit it. With this one, I love sort of the laser-like focus, but like, are there sort of like success metrics or goals that you want to achieve with Social Jukebox that like, once you hit that, it's like, okay, like, are you looking for an exit? Are you looking for a certain amount of revenue? What is it you're striving for?
I suppose at the moment, I'd really, we're around 2,000 users. I'd love to get to 5,000 users. Of course, I know the minute I get to 5,000, I'll take that and turn it into 10. But that's kind of what's on my mind now is I'm still looking for the sweet spot in terms of being able to turn up the wick on marketing and we got very good at that in the investigative business. I mean, I could build a backlog pretty quickly and then I could turn the wick back down and slow sales down to a more normalized level. So we could, because in a service business, you have to be careful. I mean, it sounds lovely to get a lot of sales, but in a service business, you can end up with really upset customers if you have too much of a backlog. And in this business, if I added too many users all at once, because I don't have an infrastructure, that would probably lead to bad service, and I'm not interested in that. So anyhow, 5,000 users would be great. It doesn't have to be tomorrow. I'm really enjoying just running it and doing it, and I'm learning a new business while I'm doing it. So I'm pretty engaged just around that right now. So I know that's not a real glorious answer, but
no, it's good. And do you have ideas now for turning up the wick and increasing?
Well, it's a pretty meta question because actually doing podcasts and things like this, tend to be like a great place just to get your name in front of new people. And I think ultimately it's a combination of, do they know about Social Jukebox? And then secondly, some people have a little bit of a negative feel about automation because they're like, well, you should be there when you're posting. And I got to say, my 2 cents is, and this is as someone who has nearly 500,000 followers on Twitter. If you're not there all the time posting and you don't have your feed going on a pretty regular basis, people forget about you. And to me, that's the reason to do it, is to kind of keep the campfire going so that people don't come by and go, oh, I must have moved on.
Yeah, that's true. Like Twitter is completely different than Facebook in, endless amount of ways, but definitely with the feed where you should be reposting something you want seen across time zones for people, even because people are there at different times. Unlike Facebook, where it kind of algorithmically shows you what it wants to show you anyways. Twitter's not like that, or it's getting more like that or less like that, but that's essentially what Twitter is for. And that's why. And obviously I would think with competitors in your marketplace, Tim, there are some like Buffer App, there's Meet Edgar, there's differences obviously, but they're in your space. And both of those companies are open about their revenues, and they're massive and a massive amount of users. So to me, if I was in your place, I'd be like, there's huge potential for growth here because you see what the market is. It's not like you have to convince people to use it. You just have to get in front of them and show them that there's another option available.
Right. And we're doing that. I guess it's just the first step was, I came out with it and it was such like an accident in the beginning. It was sort of like stumbling into something, right? And then it started working. And then because we started as Tweet Jukebox. So then that became a business. It was making money. It was cash flow positive. Hip, hip, hooray. And then the kind of, light was on that, we need to add Facebook and LinkedIn because that's the other 2 dominant platforms. So we added those. And then there was kind of the get through it, get debugged. And now we're on the other side of that. And that's why I'm turning up the wick on marketing or at least trying to now, because to me, the worst thing you can do is have this fever pitch of, invite everyone over. It's like the kind of the catastrophe in restauranting. If people have an awesome grand opening in terms of marketing, but a really subpar opening in terms of food quality and service, because everyone shows up and then it sucks. You don't want to do that. So now that I know we're very steady and pretty bulletproof, it's much more comfortable to invite a lot of people over, so to speak.
Nice. I love it. All right, Tim, this has been an absolute blast. I want to wrap up on one final question for you, if I can. It's this idea I'm working with calling the entrepreneurial gap. And I'm really looking forward to hearing your answer on this. So the entrepreneurial gap seems to be, from the hundreds of entrepreneurs I've talked to now, this gap that we live in as entrepreneurs, and you actually brushed on this during the conversation, meaning that no matter what we accomplish personally, we never see ourselves as successful, because we always have goals in front of us. That's what makes us entrepreneurs. That's what pushes us forward. And I agree we need that. But like, if you set a goal, a revenue metric in 3 months from now, or standing on a certain stage in 6 months, right seconds before you hit that goal, you're going to set bigger, loftier goals into the future. And it just doesn't matter. We're always pushing forward, like walking towards the horizon. The further you walk, the further away it gets. But I would love it right now if we could try and close this gap. So if you could stop and turn and look behind you, the highs, the lows, the wins, and the losses, everything you've been through, if you could tell me how you feel about this whole journey up until today.
Oh, it's been a blast. I mean, it's been fantastic. I've lived, and I'm by no measure am I like I've been very successful, right? But I'm not this kind of uber successful, like, no one's waiting with me. There aren't people like, I don't have private jets and all that nonsense. But I have a nice life, right? And I'm totally satisfied with my life has exceeded my expectations. I continue to set new goals because I just think it's healthy to try to kind of expand yourself. I kind of saw the dangers of like being static. So, but looking back, I goofed around through most of my early life. I had a background in finance, so I'd get great jobs, I'd save some money, and I'd go and travel. Finally got to 30 and thought, well, you can't paper over your resume forever. Maybe you ought to get serious. And it wasn't that long. After I started, I kind of found the investigative niche and then jumped into it, did pretty well in it. No, it's been great. I've had a lot of fun and I've made some money and I've done it all without kind of compromising who I, feel like I want to be as a person.
I love it. I love it. All right, Tim, we've talked about your business in passing, Social Jukebox. Can you give the listeners sort of the pitch about it, where they can track it down, and then also the best place to track you down online?
Social Jukebox is a content management system for social media. It posts to Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Essentially, you put your content into what we call jukeboxes, and then you set different posting rates for those depending on what particular kind of blend of media you want going out across those channels. It's buffer with endless repeat engine. It's kind of like an hourglass that just keeps turning over. You can find it and check it out, and you can sign up for a free subscription at socialjukebox.com. Check it out. And any questions you have, you can send me an email at tim@socialjukebox.com. The response you get will be me. It won't be my assistant because I don't have one. And you can also find me on Twitter at Alphabet Success. And I love when people ask questions and things like that. I may not know the answer, but perhaps I'll know someone that does.
Oh, that's a great response. So at Alphabet Success on Twitter, tim@socialjukebox.com is the email, socialjukebox.com is the site. You can sign up for free to try it out. And I'm going to find a link and maybe some pictures to this Riga half marathon that you and your son were just at. And I'll post all that in the show notes at Hack the Entrepreneur for you whenever you're done walking, jogging, working out, whatever it is you're doing right now. That will be there for you. Tim.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, man, for taking time to speak to me. Thanks for sharing so openly. And please just keep doing what you're doing because it is awesome to watch.
John, thanks for having me on. It was great meeting you in this forum and having a chance to chat.
My pleasure. Right now is the time to see why thousands are upgrading to a more intelligent marketing solution. Right now, you can sign up for a free 14-day trial, no credit card needed. Visit activecampaign.com/hack. There's no training fees, no contracts, and pricing is accessible to everyone. Plus, I've got you a really, really special deal. As for being a listener, you get free migration of all your contacts from your old email provider. Your second month of service, whatever price you choose, is absolutely free for the second month. Plus, I got you a free one-on-one strategy session with a platform consultant. It's time to start marketing smarter today. Go to activecampaign.com/hack right now and sign up for your 14-day free trial. All right, that was a lot of fun. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did. Before we get too far, I want you to check out the site. HackTheEntrepreneur.com. It's been completely rebuilt from the ground up on brand new platform. Studio Press sites. Yeah. They're the makers of, it's from Rainmaker Digital and Studio Press. Same company. This is like sort of custom built WordPress. So it's WordPress and you can use all the WordPress plugins and themes and everything. And that's what I did. I rebuilt it. It took about 2 weeks to migrate everything over and then do a rebuild. And it looks 100% completely different. And I'd love to hear what you think about it. Go check it out, hacktheentrepreneur.com. And then, I don't know, drop me an email, john@hacktheentrepreneur, or find me on Twitter or social media or something. Yeah, I'd like it. All right, so we've reached the point in the show where I go back and I listen to the conversation. Listen the way you get to listen to it. So that's what I just did. I went back and I listened to the conversation with Tim. Then I went back and I listened to the conversation again. That second time back through the conversation, there was something Tim had said that I had missed. I don't know how I missed it, but I did. But then when I heard it the second time, it was so very, very clear to me. It was the one thing that Tim said. Did you get it? Did you hear it? Let's do it. Let's find the hack.
And I actually had people ask me many times to get back into that business. And I was like, nah, I'm done. And because with the business I have now, like I was just in Latvia with my son. We ran the Riga half marathon together over the weekend. And while we were there together, I mean, we went out or goof around the city and having a nice time. And every now and then I'd get a support email or, some user would have a question or I'd have little business things pop up. But I mean, it just comes in on my phone and I take little segments of time throughout the day and deal with those things. But I can be anywhere.
And that's the hack. Tim. I love how you end this. But I can be anywhere. Tim has been on both sides, right? Tim has built a company for over 10 years from 3 people to 300, sold it, semi-retired, and now started a software company that has a personal retainer, but it's just him. And he now gets to be anywhere. Literally to the point where he's in, I believe, Poland when I was talking to him, and he was in Latvia over the weekend with his son running a half marathon because he's created a business lifestyle. This isn't like a lifestyle business. This is a business that can run and be part of his lifestyle, meaning that he can make certain times of day, like he said, to just respond to support or whatever it has via his phone. And all of this is based around Social Jukebox, which was him having a need for something, a tool, and having it built. He's not technical. He went through the process with you earlier, and he's built this business just based on getting more and more customers paying a monthly basis to him. This is how these businesses are made, and it's fascinating to me because these are the kind of businesses that I'm all for. I'm all for small businesses that can be flexible. They allow you flexibility in your time and your place geographically, where and when you want to work. And I love that he comes from the totally non-technical place of insurance investigation and has this company built, has the option to go and build other big companies, but consciously makes this choice to live and to be able to play in this realm and in this way. This is fascinating to me. And this is something to really think about as you are creating businesses, right? Is to think of the lifestyle that you want and think of the ideal lifestyle that you want for you, your family, whoever it is you surround yourself with. And then don't try and create that from a business that you've already have, but try and create new businesses that will, when they succeed and when they start working the way they're supposed to, that they'll allow you and enable you to live that lifestyle. So don't it's like a chicken before the egg sort of thing, but it's only executing on ideas and businesses and projects that will push you towards this ultimate goal that you want. This, if you want travel, if you want freedom, whatever it is, think about it. And I wrote a post about a few weeks ago about choosing, it's not a lifestyle business, it's a business lifestyle. And it's about this. And I love this from Tim, how he consciously made that decision. And I know that sometimes people think that we make these decisions because maybe we can't run 300 people companies or whatever it is, but that's not the case. It's just lots of us consciously make these decisions. And so I love it because Tim has done both sides of it. Yet this is where he chooses to execute at this point because of the lifestyle it allows him and his family. Tim, thank you so very, very much. All right, so hacktheentrepreneur.com. It's brand new. Looks awesome. Another cool thing I've added over there is the sponsor page. So if you'll see at the top, it says sponsor. My sponsors for the show that vary throughout the month or two or the quarter usually, they give you awesome offers. I really actually don't allow them to sponsor the show unless it's a product that I use and unless they give you a unique sort of offer. So if there's an offer you hear and you don't remember what it was or how to find it, I've created the page at hacktheentrepreneur/sponsor, and the offers will always be there for you to hunt down and get that unique deal or that special offer for being a Hack the Entrepreneur listener. Thought I'd try it out. And I think, judging by Google Analytics so far, that people are using the page. So that's cool. So you can check it out there if you ever want to grab one of those deals. All right. Enough about me, enough about the website right now. I had a blast with Tim. Thank you so much. Thank you for stopping by. Again, I truly do 100% appreciate it. And please, until next time, keep hacking the entrepreneur.